Today I'm going to show you how I designed this thumbnail in Canva in under 10 minutes. First thing you want to do is start by opening Canva and creating a new project by searching for YouTube thumbnail. You should get dimensions that look like this on the page. For today, for this tutorial, I'm just going to add a page so that I've got the other one for a reference and kind of show you step by step. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Elements and I'm going to add a gradient background. I've used sky blue here, but you can use any other color. I'm going to use the one that I've recently used. Gradient background just adds a little bit of texture and depth. So I'm going to slide it across, dragging it over so it covers the whole page. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the photo, the figure, the person. So here you've probably got it in uploads. I've got it in projects. So I'm going to go over to projects and I'm just going to go select it. As you can see, it's got its own background. I'm just going to resize it and make sure that I'm going to bring it just below, because on the left hand side you can see it's just a little bit flat here. So I kind of want to eliminate that sharp drop. Oops. So let's select that. So I'm going to bring it down. There we go. And now what I'm going to do, I want to get rid of this grey background. So I'm just going to select the image and use background remover. And you can see now that I removed that horrible grey. Next thing I want to do is just add a little bit of depth to the person. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit the photo again. I'm going to click on shadows. And then I'm going to add a drop. And that you can see that the character just kind of pops away from the page a little bit more. I'm going to have to readjust him slightly, just so that I don't again have that shadow on the right hand side. So pulling it across. And what I'm going to probably do again is just that left side is just a little bit too much. I'm going to pull him down again and probably just resize, make him a little bit bigger. So now we've got the character in place. What I want to do now is just add the glow to the back of his head. So what I'm going to do is go to Elements. You're going to type in any kind of glow. So I've put red glow and recent. That's the first one I've got. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to line it up with his face. There we go. I'm going to make it slightly bigger. And then I'm going to position it backwards. So what you can do here is, if you want a bit more of the glow, a bit more visible, I can resize it and then just kind of select it around his head, like so. And it just, again, just adds a little bit of depth to the image. You'll see it often in other thumbnails, which is just quite nice to look at. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select all these elements, because I don't really want them to move, and I'm just going to lock them down. That way, when I'm trying to select other things and trying to make other elements like the above, I'm not accidentally dragging elements and moving them out of place. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add this clock. So I'm going to go to Elements. I'm going to type in 3D clock. This is just, and go to Graphics. And then we've got it there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize it. I'm going to flip it horizontally. I'm just going to drag it over and drag it down. And again, this is just going to add a little bit more to the background. Again, a little bit more texture. I kind of, it emphasizes that 10 minutes that I'm kind of speaking to you about. But it's a little bit strong, and I don't want it to distract from the writing. So what I'm going to take it down to is transparency. So this hash here, take it down to 30. And you can see it's much more subtle. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the position so it doesn't move, and then move on. So we've got the kind of the images in the background at play now. And now what we're going to do is the text. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to text over here. I'm going to add a text box. I'm going to resize it. And I'm going to change the font to Impact. Now I want something bold but easy to read. So I don't want anything like handwriting, which might make it harder for people and audiences to read what the actual text is. I just want to make it nice and simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type this in: how I designed this thumbnail on Canva. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to readjust it to 95, and for me the distance between the lines is a bit too much. So what I'm going to do is go to spacing. I'm going to change this line spacing here to 1, and it's just shrunk it down a little bit more. What I'm also going to do is, because it's slightly overlaying on the character, I'm going to change the alignment to the left, and then what I'm going to do is make it along 3 lines. So I'm going to move it over here. There we go. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just again add an effect, add a little bit more depth. It's a little bit more flat at the moment. I'm just going to add a slight lift to it. So it's quite subtle, but you can see and notice how it looks a little bit more 3D. What I'm then going to do now is go to elements. I'm going to focus on the subtext or the subheading. So I'm going to grab a shape. So it's going to be a rounded square. I'm going to bring the width down. And I'm going to pull it across. Shrink it down slightly. I'm going to change the color to red. There we go. So I'm going to copy and paste this, because again I don't want it to be flat. I want a little bit of depth, and I'm going to change it to a darker red. Doesn't matter what kind of red it is, but for the purposes of this, I've just made it more like a maroon color. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to position it backwards. So you can see it's nice and subtle. There we go. So again, it gives it that 3D look. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to grab a subheading, so another text box. I'm going to type in under 10 minutes, and then I'm going to change it to impact as well. Obviously I'm going to have a little bit of contrast, so I'm going to make it white. I have to select it all first, then make it white. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to 50. That's a little bit big. There we go, so we'll center it there. So what I'm going to do is just, again, what I'm just going to do is just make this a little bit bigger, just so that the padding between, and then what I'm going to do is just zoom in, just makes it a little bit easier to center it. And then what we're going to do is bring it in. What I'm going to do as well, just notice it's a little bit short. So let's zoom in again. Just want to there we go, just centering it. Just so there's a little bit of padding, so it doesn't feel squashed. There we go. Just bring it down again. Just again, we're thinking about the spacing. And then what we're going to do is, the last thing we're going to do is I am going to go to uploads. Just add Canva logo. Nice, simple. Shrink it down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit and add another shadow as well. Just nice and subtle. Just make it a line. And there we go. So very nice and simple in under 10 minutes. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, found it useful, please subscribe, like, leave a comment, and let me know what else you want to see.